Okay, so I'm going to talk really low because I think people are still sleeping. I'm not sure if there's a guy in the tambo next to me. But so it's really weird to see this video with my face on it because as far as I know, I'm like not human anymore. So last night was the third ceremony. Whew, there's so much I don't understand, but I will struggle to explain what I can because I think this experience is really important for me to remember. Although she says that I'll remember what's important, clearly. But so, yeah, like I could already tell at the start of the night that the energy was different. All of us, it's so cute. I love the people that I'm here with. But yeah, so most of us did Sanenga before the ceremony, which is these like eye drops that hurt so bad. And originally, like only Eric and Zen were gonna do it, but then Rowan decided to do it, and he did it first, and then Amy's next to Rowan, so she's like, well, I'll do it, because he was like, when in Rome, and then Amy did it, and then, like, everybody else started doing it, and then so, so I asked Drew, I was like, oh, like, so what's this good for again? And he was like, it's good for your body, Amy's doing it, so, you know, just do it. I'm like, okay. I mean, Amy did combo with me. She didn't really ask questions, so yeah. So I did it, and it wasn't that bad. It hurt like hell, but it wasn't that bad. And just from the very beginning, I think that experience kind of set the tone for the night, where it made me see how temporary pain is, and how it's like what they tell you when you go into ayahuasca, like at the orientation or whatever. They say like fear, pain, all of this will pass. And I think to a degree we as humans understand that, but the situations that we get into, it's very difficult even to get through them sometimes, and it's easy to get stuck. But I think doing ayahuasca, doing combo, doing sanenga has really increased my tolerance to pain in a way where it's like this type of pain is different. It's a teacher, like it's letting you know that it's like a metaphor for all of those bad experiences in your life. So I remember beforehand, before the ceremony, I saw Amy by the bathroom, and I was like, Amy, pain is temporary. And she said, yeah, I know. You know, Tony would always say that pain is temporary, victory is forever. And she's like, oh, I like the pain is temporary part. You know, Amy's so funny. But yeah, so that kind of set the tone. As soon as I drank the ayahuasca, I did a 3/4 dose. I wonder what a full fucking dose would be like. But yeah, so I did 3/4 dose. I was like, you know, my second ceremony, I did 2/3, and then I did another third. But this is the most that I've taken at once. And I immediately felt it, not in a sense like visions, but I felt it in my body. I felt it kind of running through my body in the way where it was like everywhere. And so I was like just struggling, you know, to breathe in the beginning. And I had talked to Drew during the day because I wasn't sure what my intention was going to be. I wanted it originally to be, what is my purpose in life, or show me my path, you know, like one of those types of questions. And then Drew told me the story about getting on a flight that he thought he wasn't going to get on, because he just kind of tried, and like, I don't know, that he basically was saying that sometimes you have to admit that you just don't know. And sometimes that kind of resets things for you in ceremony in a way that you can't imagine. And he would advise me maybe to just not ask a question like that and just have it be more like open, more general. So, I went into ceremony still with, all these intentions. Like, I was like, oh, when I was meditating, I was saying like, I'm open, show me my path, I'm brave, and all these things. Like, there were a lot of things that I was saying that I was hoping she would understand. But then when it got closer to ceremony, I changed just all of my intentions to one thing, and it was, show me what I need to see. Because something told me that's what I needed to ask. Show me what I need to see. And I said, well, I'm going to trust Drew and change it to something more general. So I did, and I kept saying that, show me what I need to see, show me what I need to see. And I think like the combination of everything that I've been doing here, like meditating, yoga, the breathing exercises, like that's all, even reading this book, The Tools, everything has been preparing me for this moment, I feel, which is funny because that's like what I asked Drew yesterday too. I said, does she know what we're doing on the days off? Like, and he was so great. He said, like, how can what you're doing not be seen? You're so earnest. You have been trying the whole time. You're making connections with the people here. You're doing everything that we're telling you. You're doing everything you need to do. So I'm pretty sure that she does see that. And so, yeah, like I kind of like really trusted that. So this was the first time so in the first ceremony, there were times when I felt like my mind turned off, and that's what's supposed to happen. And when my mind turned off, that was when things got better, and I kind of like gave into the songs, right? So the second ceremony was really tough, so that's kind of different. But this third ceremony, another thing that Drew had said was, I was asking him about asking her questions. And because in the prior two ceremonies, I was kind of just like confused, like going on with whatever and still having normal human thoughts. But so Drew had said, you can ask her questions and then string them together like they're breadcrumbs. But so I think that like this ceremony was really fascinating because it's the first time I had felt like I was legitimately being telepathically communicated with by this nurturing feminine force, and the communication became clearer and clearer through the night that now I feel like she is forever inside of me. But I guess I'll get to that. I mean, it started with me feeling like she was just very heavy in my body. But when the Ikaros started, I thought I was going to purge right away because I was feeling so weird. Just weird. I wasn't feeling like super sick though. And, I immediately like gave myself into the Ikaros. I was like dancing with them. It felt very physical in the beginning. I felt very cold and hot. I felt very cold in my ears, like back here. I felt very cold in my feet. Not sure what that means. But these temperature sensations would change. And I don't know how long this lasted. It didn't feel like very long because the rest of the trip was like an eternity. But the beginning was, I kind of think, just to get me to purge. And so just the fact that I was dancing with Ikaros, I was giving myself fully. I got to the point where I needed to purge. And she was telling me, she just kept saying, let it go, let it go. And what I realized she was talking about was all this kind of self-hatred that I've been feeling for my whole life, all this darkness inside. she's like, you know what you need to let go, and you're ready to let it go. Just trust me. And again, this is the first time I felt like I was being talked to, whereas before I felt like my thoughts were coming through my own mind. Like, for example, in second ceremony, like I was like laughing because I could see the lesson she was teaching me, but then at the same time I was like, oh, I was so disgusted with myself. So all of that self-hatred that I felt in second ceremony, I was letting go of that in this ceremony. And I was ready to, because yesterday was such a great day. Because of this book that I'm reading, I have been doing these like love meditations. I've been doing like the gratitude, and working with the shadow in a way where I am not afraid to interact with people. Like, I'm not afraid to say what I want to say, and I'm able to kind of channel this true self that I have, that I sometimes have been able to channel, but now it's like a conscious effort to where it's effortless. I don't know if that makes sense, but, and I think she saw that I was really going along with it, learning from what she was showing me, going along with it. So she started to talk to me directly in this one. And so this purge was so different than the rest. It was nasty, painful, because I could feel so much hate and darkness coming out. And I could taste the ayahuasca really, really strongly. It was, you know, the taste of it itself isn't that bad, but when it's coming up through your throat, it's pretty bad. But I thought it was different because the taste was so apparent. Like, I felt that it was only that apparent because she was making a deeper connection with me, and I could feel that, and I was fine with it. And so it was in general like a great feeling, such a great feeling. It purged so much. And after that, this is where I struggle to explain things, because I think it's something that's very inexplicable. There are some parts of it that can be explained, which I'm going to try. But after this purge, I was trying to go back into focusing on the ikras like before, and being like in this blissful kind of dancey state. But that's not what she had planned for me, because what she had going on is way more. People talk about dying and being reborn in the jungle, and I think that nothing can prepare you for this. Like, you can watch all the videos you want, you can read everything you want, but like they said, the shamans here want to heal you, and the experience isn't going to be what you think. So I don't know how to explain it in words, but I felt that after the purge, I was somewhere disgusting. I was somewhere deep down in the gunk of something in my body. And so my body, my physical body, I was like going down, 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 because I couldn't sit up anymore. I couldn't sit up, and I was just going down, 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 down. And I was in my lap, just in my lap. It was the strangest sensation, because I felt like there was a force holding me down. And then I felt like there were all of these things around me, and I'm not sure what they were, but I could feel kind of like, I was in like the bowels of something, or I was like in the ground. I have a lot of questions about this, like where I even went, but I started feeling shit being thrown onto me. And I remember struggling to open my eyes at some point, and then opening my eyes and realizing I was still in the maloka, and then closing my eyes and then feeling this shit being thrown on me again, and then like thinking like, I just need to let go, like, I just have to accept this. I said, show me what you need to show me, and I accept it. So, regardless of how I feel right now, the way that I felt was that I was completely disappearing. Like, I felt like I was being buried alive, I think is the best way to explain it. Buried where? I'm not sure. I think maybe in the vines, like, it was very organic, like, very, like, everything was pulsating and moving, and at first it was really scary because it felt very gross. Like, I felt like I was in, like I said, the bowels. And so there were, like, these entities around me. I'm not sure what they were, but I felt like there were lights being shined in my eyes, almost like I was like, what the fuck? Like, have I been abducted by aliens or something? That's how I felt. And so they were, like, kind of looking at me, like kind of judging me a little bit, like, And I got so fucking freaked out, dude. Like, everything was more like a feeling. And I think the lesson here, well, I know the lesson here. Mother Ayahuasca kept telling me all the lessons because she was so kind in that she would answer all my questions. Like, I can't even believe that I was able to have such an open dialogue with her. And this happened over the night. Like, when I was being buried alive, I wasn't able to have an open dialogue with her. It was not until Drew came over where so I called Drew over because I felt like I was dying. I felt like I was ceasing to exist and that I would never come back as a human. And I was struggling to accept that, but I knew I had to. So I called for help. Drew came over and I said that I was dying. And he said, well, you can see this as a representation of the idea that you're not dying, but your old ways are dying. And I was like, no, I'm dying. My physical body is dying. Like, I'm not human. And that's when he laid me down. He was like, okay, I'm not going to leave you. Just lay down and let go. And when he said it, and the way that he said it, I understood the gravity of the situation because he knew where I was. He knew that this was beyond just a representation, that I was being taken somewhere, and he was preparing me for it. And so he laid me down, and I grabbed his hand, and the way that it felt was intense because I felt like, yeah, my body was just, he was saying, like, just let it melt away. I forgot what he was saying about death, but it was that, I have to ask him because I was so in such a weird state at this point. I was holding his hand and I thought about, like, what flashed into my eyes was Lily dying, Dad dying, Einstein dying, and the final moments of their life, their final breaths. I felt it. I felt like that was happening to me. And I felt that Drew was there to help get me through my own death. He kept saying, let go, remember, you're going to be reborn. Oh yeah, that's what he said. When I said, no, I'm actually dying, he was like, he kind of like shifted into a different gear, and he was like, you're not dying, he's like, what's happening right now is you're about to be reborn. And I was like, okay. And so I trusted that everything would be okay because he was there and he said it was okay. I felt like he was it's like earlier he said, it's like being at a hospital, like these are patients that are here. And I remembered that too. And I remembered that these Icaros that they're singing, like all the Icaros, they're like a grand orchestra. making things happen in whatever plane this is. Um, like they have a rhythm to them that has direction, that directs your consciousness to a certain point. That's the best way I can describe it. But so when I was laid down to die, I like felt so weak, and I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to let go. And so I did, and I was surprised because I was so weak. Like my body just was done. My body had fucking died. And I had to accept that, and I had to accept, okay, where I'm going right now, this is a journey for my consciousness. And what is consciousness? And sometimes I'd ask questions like that, but then immediately turn it off, because I would remember that that's not what this was about. Like, because my human body was gone, I had to just fully give myself to this, and fully give myself to this consciousness, right? And so what really helped was Drew being there, because he was saying, like, he was staying there. He was like, let go, just keep letting go. He was making sure that I guess died completely, and I died okay. And then at one point he said, you're free now. And when he said that, I felt like I was in this membrane like sack, and I had these kind of insect like wings that were so new. And I somehow blinked, because with my body being dead, I felt like it was just dead, but I felt also still some attachment to it. And so I was really unsure of how to see. Like, because I couldn't move my head, I wasn't sure how to navigate this world that I was in, but I definitely was in a different world. Um, and then, yeah, when he said, you're free now, I felt like at that point Raul was singing this song that kind of crescendoed up like this. And I could see creatures like flying up with his song like this. And all I remember was like, I want to fly too, because I'm free, I want to fly too, but I couldn't. I was still so new, and at this point, I didn't even know Drew was still there, because, I didn't know I was still holding his hand, because my body was fucking just done. But then at some point he left, and he was like, keep letting go. And then he left, and I was like, fine after that, because then Mother Ayahuasca took over. And she took over saying similar things that Drew had been saying. She was saying, like, good girl. And you're doing so good. You're doing so good. Oh, yeah, because Drew kept saying that. He was like, you're doing so good. You're doing so good. And I'm like, well, if they say I'm doing so good, then I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing and trying to, like, let go. Because this is the first time, honestly, like, in my life that I've understood what it means to let go. And it's because I fucking died. And I'm not kidding about the death either. It was fucking heavy shit. But I do feel free, in the sense that I understand now when people say, when they do this, they're not afraid of death anymore, because I experienced it and it was fine. A little harrowing, but fine. And so because I couldn't follow whatever was flying around, it was so interesting too, because the sounds of the jungle with like the bugs, like crickets and stuff, like I felt like I was inside of it, and I was experiencing life at like all different levels, like the origin of life almost. And is very, I guess, yeah, the best way to describe it is like I felt like I was in the vine. At first I was like, am I in a tree? And she's kind of like, you'll understand later. I kept asking, like, where am I? And what am I doing here? And like, I think with all these questions I'd like bombarded her with, she was so gracious in that she just kept saying, you'll understand later. It's okay, you'll understand later. And then she like took me into her arms. It was this presence. I was taken to her arms, and I was this sort of larvae like not larvae-like, because I felt like I had wings, but they were like not working. They were still so new. And she kept telling me, like, you know, you're still a baby. Be patient. Let go. So it went from like let go, let go, let go to, you know, I was seeing things a lot in the beginning. I was feeling this grand orchestra that Raul and Lydia were playing, and following kind of this like directional, like going into tunnels, things coming out of the tunnels being like growing, this like passage of time, and things were doing this a lot, and it felt very alive. But at some point it stopped, and I was like in the dark. But Mother Ayahuasca was there, so I didn't feel alone, but like there was this danger of going back into normal human thought, thinking about the real world, and what does this mean, and how am I going to apply it, and like what am I going to say in the talk tomorrow, and if I said something like what am I going to say in the talk tomorrow, for example, she wanted me to turn that off, because I couldn't dare reconnect myself with this world yet. I was still learning from her and this other world. So she would only accept questions like, you know, what's happening to me, and why can't I see anything? And I kept asking, why can't I see anything? Because I was able to see before. I just didn't understand what I was seeing. But then when it got dark, like I knew that the songs that they were singing were doing something similar, but I couldn't see it. And she kept telling me, just because you cannot see doesn't mean things aren't happening. And just because you cannot see doesn't mean you don't have to focus. Like, and that kind of transformed into, because I was getting so frustrated and I didn't want to anger her, because she was there with me and she was being so gracious, and she kept telling me that I was special, that I was beautiful, and that I was doing great, and I was doing everything I was supposed to do, and that I just had to lie there. Earlier Drew had said just melt into the bed, and that's what I did, because I literally like couldn't move my body, like, and you know, but at some point, like when things started, like after one of the songs had finished, I was able to get on my back and be in a more comfortable position, because my arm had like fallen asleep. I had like been holding Drew's hand like this, and then I'd left it there for God knows how long, but it was falling asleep, so I managed to drag myself to my back. And then I could feel myself being like, well, if this body is still here, what's it doing? And I tried to open my eyes, and she's like, nope, you don't need to open your eyes. The Maloka's the Maloka. It's gonna be there later, you know? So I felt, and then she said she was turning off my body because I didn't need it right now. And so she turned off my body, and I was just, and I literally could not move until my limpieza. I was like, okay, turned off my body. But yeah, so when I was on my back, it transformed into this final section of ceremony where she kept telling me to respect and listen to Raul and Lydia. Respect, listen, focus. She kept telling me, be gentle, be kind, respect, listen, focus. Just because you cannot see doesn't mean you're, like she said, I don't know, it's like she's saying, just because you cannot see doesn't mean that things aren't there. And the way that I interpret that is to remember and recognize that, you know, of all the things I've been learning about the higher source, like I literally experienced the higher source today. When Raul and Lydia were singing, their Icaros took on a whole new meaning. They were this orchestra, like they were like these conductors of life in this other world, making things happen, and I could feel that was their healing. I felt like when I was dying, I felt like they were taking care of me because of the songs. that this was what was meant to happen, this is what was meant to be, and this was what the medicine is. And I could see that how it was a ceremony. Like, I could see how this was the ceremony of me dying and being reborn. It wasn't the same in any way to the past two, where I was still in the physical world at all. The physical world completely fell away. And although I didn't know how to see, she kept telling me, you'll understand later, you don't need to see right now. Remember, you don't need to rush. Don't get ahead of yourself. You're still a baby. And she kept calling me my child, and I felt her like hugging me, whatever I was at that point. But yeah, I couldn't fly, but I felt like I still was existing. And all I had to do was listen to the Icaros and listen to Mother Ayahuasca. And this was so amazing because it's the first time that she really talked to me, and I said, "You've been testing me." And she said, "Yes, and you passed." And when it came time for the limpiezas, I kind of was stressing a little bit and getting restless because I couldn't move my fucking body. I was like, do I need to pee and whatever? And she's like, no, your body is fine. I turned it off in the sense that I didn't need to use any of my bodily functions at all anymore. She was like, just fucking listen to the songs. She didn't say it that way. She was very kind, but she like repeatedly told me to focus. And so by the time it was my limpieza, I was, oh yeah, there was a moment when Stace came over. He was checking on me, and I couldn't open my eyes. I couldn't do anything because I was dead. I was still on my side. And then he said, "Elvira, are you okay?" and I said, "I'm not even here right now." And he was like, "Oh, yes, well then, took it pretty well, eh? That's good." And then he walked away. And I was like, oh, he knows where I am right now. And I had so many questions, but she just kept telling me, you can ask later, just do this right now. But it was so difficult at the time because I'm like, will there be a later? Because I felt like I was fucking dying. But there was a later, and I came back. It's fucking crazy. It is very temporary. So by the time my limpieza hit, my body was still turned off. But when they took me over there, I was able to, it was able to work fine. And she said, just trust that it will work fine when it needs to. What will happen will happen. And so I went over to Lydia, and I was just so out of it, but I felt like the directional Icaro again. And I started moving slightly, but I was so weak, and I kept telling her mentally, I'm like, I'm so tired, I'm so new. And she understood. And, when she grabbed my hands at the end, she said, listo, I'm ready. And then I was like, okay, yeah, they know that I was here with them. They know. And they know what they did. They know that I've died and come back. And that I handled it gracefully, pretty gracefully. But I was so out of it, like, it was so nice because this was the first time they used, like, this singing bowl. And so, like, at the end of the limpiezas, before Drew did his mantras, he did singing bowl. And it was raining like fucking, I've never heard rain like that before. And Mother Ayahuasca was telling me, isn't the rain nice? We're celebrating you. We're celebrating your rebirth. And it's so nuts because, like, this lake here connects to this like, it looked like kind of a dried up river before, but after last night, like, it was literally like pounding, like just buckets falling. And I, like, when the ceremony ended and it was announced that it was ended, I was like, oh, well, I kind of want to test out my body again, and I think I actually do need to pee now because my human body is back. So I got up, and then I was like outside with a light because I was like trying to see the rain, and like I was so fucking out of it. And then Mate came out. She's like, whoa, 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 this light is so bright, people are still tripping. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. And then I was like, I'm like barely even here right now. And she was like, really, why? And then I said, I died. And she was like laughing. She's like, oh yeah, well, now that your body is dead, you can work on your soul. And she said, you came back. And then she gave me a huge hug, and it was so nice to hug someone. And then I came out of the bathroom, and Raul was there. And then he looked at me, and I was like, gracias. And he was like, And then he gave me a hug. He like opened his arms and gave me this huge hug. And I just hugged him so tight because he knew, and he knew the journey I had been on, but I was accepted. Like, it's just so mind-blowing and amazing that whatever forces were happening here, they have told me that I can move on now. I am reborn. And even like when I was like going to bed, I was so tired, and I was like asking Mother Ayahuasca, like, will you still be here? Because toward the end of it, like, I could feel her presence fading, like her physical whatever presence it was when I was born. And she's like, I'm always going to be here with you. And then this morning, like, I took a huge shit and showered, and it was like such a weird thing to see my body again. And she's talking to me, she's like, your human body is so new. And she said, you can do anything you want now. You can do anything you want. And I'm going to. Nothing can hold me back now. First I got my soul back, then I got dragged to hell, and now I'm reborn with this telepathic connection to nature. What the fuck? It's amazing. And I realize now that it's everything that I've ever wanted. Everything will be cake now. Yeah, I'm still processing, but I think that's the best way to describe the night. It's pretty good. And I'm back. I'm alive, I'm back, but I'm also new. Okay, bye.